Having faced homelessness and adversity in her early life, she has turned those challenges into a foundation, purpose driven work that now helps others.
We lived at the Salvation Army shelter for battered women and children. I
Mhm.
always knew as an adult, I'm not going to be homeless. I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to do drugs. I found myself imprisoned like Joseph. I found myself on suicide watch.
What would you say to them right now to help them break that mindset and help them shift and change their lives?
You're not stuck. You
I love
are sitting in a waiting room. You took a number, and we know God. You might have number 1,632,000, and God snap his fingers, and tomorrow life is going to be different.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode in another season of the Woman Witness podcast on the Woman Witness TV network. I'm your host, Lia Fortier. Here on this platform, we bring to you voices of dynamic women that are out there making a positive impact in their lives, in their family, and the community around them. Women of faith, women of resilience, women who have battled through something, and they are bold enough and strong enough to turn around, grab the hand of another sister, and be a witness. Today, I'm so excited to introduce to you my guest today, Miss LaRita Francois. She is an entrepreneur, a workforce development consultant, an author, and a transformational speaker who is dedicated to helping women rebuild their lives with purpose, stability, and confidence. As the founder of LaRita Francois LLC, she creates programs that support individuals in overcoming real barriers to employment like housing, instability, history, and self doubt. But what makes Larita's work so impactful is that it's rooted in lived experiences. She knows exactly what it means to start from survival mode. Having faced homelessness and adversity in her early life, she has turned those challenges into a foundation of purpose driven work that now helps others break similar cycles and build sustainable futures. In today's conversation, we are going to be deep diving into the intersection of personal transformation and economic empowerment. We'll talk about what it really means to rebuild after adversity and how to shift from simply getting by and living strategically, and how women can turn their lived experiences into meaningful work lasting impact. I'm so excited. I want you guys to all lean in because this is going to be a really good conversation with my guest today, Miss LaRita Francois. Hey, LaRita, welcome to the well. How are you today?
Hi, Leah. Thank you. I'm so excited. I've watched some of your podcast interviews, and this is a real honor. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait to get into your conversation. And I love the fact, Larita, can I say this? That you built your foundation based on lived experiences. And
Yes.
I strongly cannot overemphasize this enough that this is what the well is built on. It is built on people that God found in their own situations and He had put them back together again, healed them, molded them, and now you are going out making a difference and being a witness to others so they too can build their lives and put it back together again. And so before I get going and talking of a storm, which I do, I'm going to take a pause and I wanted to ask you, I want you to take us back to those earlier years. What did life look like for you growing up? Were there some challenges that you had to navigate and overcome over time?
Yeah, so growing up, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans can kind of be a really tough place. But
Mhm.
yeah, there were challenges. My mother and my father both suffered with the disease of addiction. And
Mm,
my father also suffered with the disease of alcoholism. So in
mm,
the beginning, I didn't really understand what was happening. We seemed like a normal family. I had a brother who's 3.5 years younger than me. And so I'm the oldest. So I didn't really understand what was going on initially. But as I
mhm,
got older and I started to see shifts in our environment, we started moving every month. There started to be, just a lot of instability started to kind of rear its ugly head. So by the
mhm,
time I was 13, 14, when my grandmother passed away, she was kind of that glue And
that
so
glue.
once she passed away, my mom's addiction really spiraled. My dad had kind of disappeared by then. And so we went from kind of living with my grandmother and kind of feeling protected,
Yeah.
in a sense,
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
kind of moving around from relative to relative, staying in different places. And by the time I
Mhm.
was, I think maybe 15, 16, we lived at the Salvation Army shelter for battered women and children. We didn't live there very long, but it was a very difficult experience to
Yeah.
not know what your living situation is going to be like, on a consistent basis. Yeah.
Yeah, I love how you said that your grandmother was the glue.
Hmm.
Right, that hub that you can go back to and call home, and so you explained a little bit about what that stability or that instability looked like back then. How do you feel that it, like, affected your life now?
Because everything is that I do is really built on lived experiences, right? When you grow up in an environment of chaos and lack of structure, you tend to either go one or two ways as you grow up. You either lean into the chaos or you do everything you can to try to resist it. And so
Yeah.
for me,
Yep.
I am I definitely believe that God has ordained me to do some things in my life that I could not have done without him. Sometimes I don't want to do those things, but God will have his way and as he should.
Yeah.
So, for me, it was more, even as a child, the chaos kind of I didn't like it, and it pushed me to go the other way, to create structure as a child, to create structure as a young person. And so I leaned into that. And I will be 100% honest. When
Mhm.
we were living in that shelter, and they say sleeping from pillar to post
Mhm.
at different relatives and different family friends, I just remember thinking, I don't want to leave my mom. I got to go wherever my mom goes. And
Mhm.
I'm a child, I'm a teenager. I can't
Right.
change this situation, right? But I
Mhm.
always knew as an adult, I'm not going to be homeless. I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to do drugs. I'm not going to,
Right.
consume alcohol in a dangerous way. And
Right.
so that was what my mind was set on. Once I turned 18, I got to graduate high school and I have to create a different life for myself. And so
Right.
that was, obviously, I know now at 46 that that was
Yeah.
God planting I have my necklace here, which is a heart, and
Mm.
it has a mustard seed in it. And
Mm.
my kids and their father
Mm.
bought it for me because life is not easy, right? And
Yeah.
so a lot of times when you have adversity, it is easy to forget that you don't need to have face the size of an elephant. It only needs to be tiny. And if it's tiny, then oh man, the things that God will do for you. I'll tell you, Leah, I have
Mm.
things in my life that I never even asked for, that I never prayed for, that I never even thought were attainable for me. Not because I don't believe in myself, but because I just thought, well, this isn't in the cards for me. But God will have his way. He says different.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Can
Yeah.
I just go back real quick, Larita? You said that all these hard stops, if you will, that shaped your childhood growing up, and you said to yourself, "Not me, not this, not this," and you said that was God preparing you. I do believe that that was God beginning a new thing, starting a new cycle, and
Mhm.
you are the curse breaker. You are the one that's going to start those generational blessings by from g- to start at your generation so
Yeah.
it's a better outcome for your children. I love that and heard that so loud and clear.
Yeah, listen.
Mhm.
When when you say, I had a friend years ago to tell me, I was upset about things not kind of going my way at the time when I was trying to
Yeah.
accomplish things, and she said, you've broken generational curses. I
Mm,
said,
that
well,
part.
what do you mean? Well, now I'll tell you what that means. I have a 26-year-old daughter who has a doctorate in pharmacology. I have a 23-year-old son who plays 6 instruments, who has his own producing company and works in the restaurant
Come
industry.
on.
So, and 26 and 23, and I'm not a GG yet. I'm
Come
I'm
on.
not ready. I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I'm blessed, and
Yeah.
and I'll tell you what, I would love to. I know we're going to get into some more stuff, but
Yes.
and I want you to learn more about me, but there is something, Leah, that I am a season that I am experiencing in my life right now as I speak to you that I can't fully talk about right now. But
Mhm.
I will just tell you this. There is a part two to this story. There is a
Mm,
season that I am navigating right now where I found myself in the lion's den, for lack of better words.
mm,
Like Daniel, I found
mm,
myself imprisoned like Joseph.
mm,
I found myself on suicide watch. I
mm,
found myself praying with women that were in the same situation as me. I found myself in a room with women asking me to hold Bible study and pray with them because they didn't think that God remembered who they were. I can't talk about the details today, but I would love to tell you about those details in another conversation because what I went through as a young person and the season that I'm going through now at 46, they're on two different sides of the spectrum. And this season, even with the faith and the love that I have for God and everything that He's blessed me with, this season has been one of the most trying seasons that the enemy has tried to box me out with. And I would love to tell you what God is doing for me, including your email. So I would love to
Okay.
come back. I would love to come back.
Oh, I need to have you
I would
back because
love,
that's what it's all about,
I would
talking
love to
about
come
it.
back. I
When
would
you are
love to
ready
come
to
back.
talk about it and you can, we
Yeah.
wanna know more because I mean, you said the lion's den, like Joseph, I was just
Imprisoned.
studying
Yeah.
Joseph, okay, Joseph had a
Yes.
life.
Yeah.
Let me
Right?
let me let me ask you now, hearing that, this gives me this gives me much context of your journey. It
Mhm.
kind of puts it together, builds this story. I'm curious about the moment where you felt like things really begin to shift for you. Was there like a specific moment when you realized that something had to change? That what was happening internally during this time?
I'll be honest. For me, when things actually changed for me, I did I've kind of been in and out of doing things for myself since I was like 14.
Yeah,
Not that I never had family that were around or family that didn't help me in the best way that they could, but I've always kind of felt that I needed to be responsible for my younger brother, that I needed to, kind of I'm the older sibling.
yeah.
So when I graduated from high school, that's really, when things kind of they started to be a turning point for me. I was living on my own. I was working full time. I was going to school full time. But even that was a struggle because I had my own apartment. I didn't have a car. I didn't have enough money to buy books. So I would
Hmm.
borrow books and make copies of the lessons and do my homework that way. And the real turning point for me was I had my daughter when I was 19, and my mother was still struggling with the addiction, and she got into some trouble. Had never really been into trouble before, and she got arrested. And I just remember, I was working for a judge at the time, and
Oh
that
wow.
particular judge was willing to help me, and she did. And
Mm,
my mom did not follow the rules once she was given the help, and she ended up back in jail. And I remember writing her a letter and saying, "You will never see my daughter again." My daughter was her first and only grandchild at the time. "You will never see my daughter again if you don't get your life together, because I will not subject her to what I went through." And let me tell you how God works. God is such The way that God works. When I sent her that letter, she was very angry. She did not speak to me. She sat in jail for almost 40 days.
mm.
And when the judge released her, he released her to a drug treatment program. From that moment on, my mother was sober and clean for nearly 15 years before she passed away she had cancer. And what is so powerful about how God moves, the night she went to jail, she told me a story that
Mm.
she was tired of living the way that she was living. Being on drugs, she was living in an abandoned house. She was being eaten up by fleas. There was no water, there was no lights. And she walked past a church and she started crying. Not any church, a church that she went to school to, a church that she went to
Wow.
church every Sunday. And she walked
Wow.
past the church and she cried and she said, God help me. And she got arrested that night. So God has shown me that I always tell people when you pray for something, you have to be ready
You got to
for
be
what you pray
ready.
for. You got to be ready because when you ask God for something, He's going to give it to you. And you have to understand He's going to give it to you the way you need it, not the way you want it.
He's going to have to take some things, strip some things from you
Oh, and let me
most
tell
of
you
the
something.
time.
This season that I am navigating right now, I was stripped to I was stripped of my identity. I spent almost 20 years building a career, a reputation, an identity. I'm a minister. I help people.
Mm,
I wasn't just stripped of my identity. I'm gonna tell this story one day.
mm,
I was naked, and I'm not
mm,
talking about like figuratively. I was literally stripped naked.
mm.
And when you can be stripped of everything, of who you are, of what you've accomplished, of what you've done, and God still sits next to you and say, "You're mine." None of that matters.
Whew, LaRita,
It's
you
heavy.
just don't leave us hanging like this.
No,
But
no,
okay, but
listen.
listen,
Listen.
let me just say this, and I get it, the sensitivity of the conversation, but
Right, right.
if I was to be honest, we can all relate to a point where you hit your lowest.
You're rock bottom.
You can
Yeah.
find yourself anywhere in the Bible. You like, God, there ain't no way in the world I'm in
Yeah.
all these stories.
Yeah.
But
And people don't
go
understand.
ahead.
You don't have to experience rock bottom because of addiction or
Correct. Yeah.
gambling or it could be you made a certain choice. It could be a relationship. It could be
Mm,
a loved one. It
mm,
could be it could
mm,
be bad decisions in a career. It could be many things, and that's why it's so important for me. And it's not necessarily that it's a sensitive situation. There is a legal thing tied to it right
got
now,
it.
and that's why I can't speak on it. But as soon as I am able to, I will definitely connect with you because people
Yeah.
need to hear this. But I have many stories from the past that are pretty impactful that we can dive into that got me to this point where I am now.
No, no, this
Yeah,
is good, Larita. And
yeah,
sometimes you got to speak to it in order to get through it. And I'm
yeah.
gonna ask you. I want to talk about survival mode because sometimes you said that you actually mentioned you said that you don't have to have a drug situation. You don't have to it could be anything that will force you into a situation where you are in survival mode and you
Mhm.
find yourself just going with the motions. You find yourself in the midst of something that you end up ultimately possibly getting stuck in. What did survival mode actually look like and feel like to you on a daily basis?
For me, survival mode feels different based on where I am in my life, right? When
Got
I
it.
was 22 years old and I had had my son and I had two kids and my mom was clean and sober, survival mode started to look a little different for me because it started to be less about survival because I had a home, I had a family, my mom was sober. It looked more like, okay, now I can start to think about how I want to thrive. I always say my work is rooted in helping people move from surviving to thriving. And so it became less about what am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? And it became more about thriving. But when I was younger and I was 16, 17, it was more about I had to have a part-time job. It was more about
Yeah.
I had to pay
Yeah.
attention to I learned very early on that I had to pay attention to people and pay attention to how people engage because I was in an environment that was dangerous and chaotic. So
Mhm.
for me, I've always thought that I'm a really good, you know,
Just right.
judge of character, right? But
Mhm.
even the season I'm going through now has shown me that it is important to recognize that not only can you not judge a book by its cover, you can't do that positively or negatively. And a lot of times people do that. We see a book that's beautiful and it's all wrapped up and it's got a great cover and it's got a bow, and we think, that's a great book, but we don't open it to see what's on the inside. We just assume that it's a great book because of the way that it looks. Just like we assume that a book is all battered and beaten up, we think there's no message inside that book, so
Mm.
we don't bother to open it. But they couldn't both be farther from the truth. You can have great, beautiful books with
Right.
garbage on the inside, with things that just poison you. And you can have a book that's been beaten up and the pages are worn and it's torn and it's gotten stains on it, and you open it and it fills your cup. And
Mm,
that's my perspective, and that's how I am operating now in this new season of life, allowing myself to see what's inside the book before I make a determination. So survival mode changes based on your situation, your mindset, what you're experiencing at the time, you know?
mm. Yes, yes. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
LaRita.
Yeah.
Let them use you. You're absolutely right. Were there ever small decisions or habits that helped you get through a stage of survival mode?
I don't know how to give up. I don't know how to quit. But it's not just I don't know how to quit like I'm some superhero. It's that I truly do believe that God communicates with me through everything. I
Yeah.
could hear a song on the radio. I could watch a TV show. I could be at a comedy show. There is
Amen to that.
always, I am always in conversation with God, always. And something my grandmother taught me years ago, and my mom, they both would tell me, you don't have to be afraid to question God. You don't have to be afraid to have a conversation with him and say, what is it you want me to learn here? What am I missing? And for me, I'm not afraid to say, I'm angry with you right now. Because
Mm,
what I'm going through, I just don't feel like I should. Right.
mm,
And
mhm,
and God says to me, okay, well, you may not feel like you should, but I need you to go through this. There's a reason you don't know because I haven't shown you yet, but you'll get it eventually. And so I'm not afraid to have that back and forth conversation. And I understand that he communicates back with me. I don't just scream into a void and think that there's never going to be a response to come back. There is. And sometimes you don't hear it because you don't want to hear it because it's not what you want to hear. So
mm.
for me, it's just like I never expected life to be easy. And
Yeah.
maybe it's because growing up, life wasn't easy for me. But I also know that there are times when life can just be really great and really amazing. And I try to remember those times when it gets dark
Yeah.
because people think because I'm a minister, they think because I've pushed through adversity that I don't experience darkness. The enemy communicates with me like everybody else. He tells
It's
me
and
that
sometimes harder, probably
he
because you're
listen, yep, he tells me all the time, you are foolish to keep following him. Look at everything he's done to you.
Mm, mm, mm,
He tells me that every day. And when it gets
mm,
really dark, he tells me other things,
mm,
that you are not ordained like you think. He would
mm,
not care if you're gone. And I have to say when he says that to me, I have to say, you're a liar. That's not what he shows me. That's not what he says to me. So it's really more for me, it's just about God does not want me to quit. And I'll say this to you, Leah. What keeps me pushing, just to be clear for people, I am navigating a season that is grittier, more traumatizing, more enemy driven, it feels, than any season I've experienced, even homelessness as a young person. But in one afternoon, my business flourished. I got new clients. I
wow.
got the same invitation from Women Witness TV.
Mm,
And I had another positive thing to come across my desk that is changing the way I'm moving forward. So
got
those
it.
are the types those are the types of things
Got it.
that keep
Got
he
it. God
those
is
those
making
are
your
the
crooked path straight.
right, he's showing me, all right, listen,
You want to right.
this is a season, the enemy is busy, but anything that the enemy is doing to destroy you, I am more powerful. I can take it and make it a testament to who I am through you. And that's what's been happening to me, even in the season that I'm experiencing now, even through the season that I had when I was growing up, homeless, and the parents' addiction. And God has still shined light on me and on my experiences, even throughout those dark chapters.
Let me ask you, you talk about strategic living. What does strategic living mean to you now based on this new revelation of what
Yeah,
you're
right.
going through?
Very different. Very different. So I used to run a nonprofit called Take the Lead NOLA. And I was the founder, and I worked with individuals with disabilities and helped them with workforce development, job placement. And I did that
Yeah.
for 15 years. And at the height of it, it had grown to be really big. And I was
Mm,
working 50 plus hours a week. I wasn't taking
mm,
care of my health. I wasn't talking to God as much as I needed to. I was
mm.
just
You
in
busy.
that on that corporate
Yeah.
grind, right? Right. And so when I stepped back from that, I closed that organization 3 years ago this year because 4 years ago my brother was killed. And I closed the nonprofit because I needed to grieve and I needed to uh, focus on that. My health was not good and I was struggling. And
Mm.
in the midst of that, I wrote a book called The Healing Pages: The Journey Through Grief. It's a ebook, but I'm working to get it printed. It is a journal to help people navigate the stages of grief. And as I was
Mm.
creating the book, I did the activities and I wrote in the
Yeah.
journal and I responded to the questions. And it made me realize that I wasn't living intentionally. It made me realize that I had tied myself to this idea that if I wasn't at a desk for 10 to 12 hours a day, if I wasn't giving every aspect of myself to other people, that I wasn't, successful, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
the season that I'm navigating now, God has said to me, what intentional living, what being strategic about the way that I'm living now looks like is I am very intentional about the projects that I take on. I'm very intentional about making
I
sure I eat
understand.
a certain yeah, that I eat a certain
Mhm.
way now, that I
Mhm.
am exercising. I start my morning off every day with a run, every day.
Come
And
on,
if I'm
LaRita.
hurting or in pain, I walk. If, before I get out of bed, I wake up sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for 30. I have a conversation with God. We talk about what's going on with me. And I always make sure to tell him, thank you for breathing air in my lungs and allowing me to be a better version today that I was yesterday. And I give myself grace, Leah. That's not something I did all these years. I did not give myself grace. The other day, I needed a day and I took the day.
And you took it.
I took the day and I worked a little later yesterday to make up for that, but I didn't push it. I didn't
Yeah.
work myself until 3 o'clock in the morning like I used to do. We have to remember that a part of living intentional and living in a life that is
Right.
divine is also about caring for ourselves and loving ourselves. I struggle to realize that self care is a part of divinity. Self care is a part of intentional living. God requires that of us. He rested on the seventh day, yet we determine that we're not going to do that. And loving self is a part of loving God. And that's something that is big now in this new season of my life.
That's so good. I love the fact that you pointed that out, Larita. And if I could just take a moment to kind of expound on that too, because I do believe that's a cultural thing as well, because you can go to other places, honey, and they rest.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know if it's just this Western culture of ours that we feel like, the more we have on our plate, the more we step up and volunteer and do this and do that, I don't know, the better we feel about ourselves. But I do believe that that's like that's a strategy of the enemy, because we can't be soldiers on the front line if we tired, if we're sick, if we can't help ourselves. So I love the fact that you pointed that out, because that is so important that we do take that time to rest.
Yeah.
Just
No,
to
I agree with you.
rest, clear your mind. And what did Jesus say? Peace is what I leave you. He wants to give
Peace
us
is what I
peace.
live
So
in.
sometimes we even close our eyes, we lay down, but we're so busy worrying about what we got to do, what we didn't do, that we're not
Yeah.
even resting in our mind. So I love the point that you brought that up, Loretta. I wanted to really expound on that, because I'm strategically being sure that I'm getting some rest now.
Yes, you have to. You have
Come
to. Yeah,
on.
you
Come
have to.
on.
Yeah, yeah. I love it, but I agree with you. I think it is a cultural thing because
Mhm.
especially when we look at like my grandmother, we look at the matriarchs
Come
and
on. Yeah.
of
Mhm.
families. they were always tired, but they
Ooh.
never stopped. They
Mhm.
worked, they took care of the family. It was they always did that. And I'll be honest, the 26-year-old I have, the 23-year-old, I'm intentional now about showing them, because that 23-year-old, he does not understand rest. He thinks that his body is a total machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so trying to not even really just constantly have conversations with him about it, but to model that, to show him that I rest, I take a day. My daughter called me this morning. I'm just checking in. Are you at the, yeah, I'm at the park. I'm doing my walk.
Yeah.
I told my friend, I said, I'm going to go and ride the train at the park today when
Mm.
I finish working this evening. So for me, Leah, growing up the way that I did, I grew up really fast. I never really got to be a kid, right?
Right. Right.
So, this new season of my life, I am spending a lot of time as LaRita, the woman, the entrepreneur, the consultant, but I'm spending a lot of time parenting LaRita, the child, the little
That's good.
girl who didn't grow up, the little girl who didn't get to do kitty things.
Who
And
was
one of
rushed to grow up.
She was rushed. And one of the things that I've been doing lately that I love so much and is painting and coloring. And I never thought that I would enjoy painting or coloring, but I can find myself painting on canvas. I can find myself coloring in these books,
Mm.
and 2 hours will go by.
Mm.
And I am just there in that moment. The brain is cut off. I'm connected to God. I can hear him when he wants to get me messages and say things to me. I can hear her when she's, getting anxious. And,
Come on,
I can
Rita.
put my hand on my chest and I can say to her, I love you. You're safe. I'm in charge of you. You're okay. We're going to be fine.
Yeah.
That is not something I ever did.
Yeah.
And a lot of us culturally, we go through
Mm.
trauma and we just stuff, stuff, stuff. We just bury it. And we think that that makes us strong. That is not strength. You are tearing yourself down. You are, in essence, you're ingesting poison because
Mm.
you're not dealing with it. My mom used to say, pressure burst pipes.
Mm.
So you stuff enough down, what's going to happen? You're going to explode
Mm.
eventually. And
Mm.
and it might not explode outwardly. It might explode up here. It
Yeah.
might explode in
And your
here.
your hope. Your hope.
Let me tell you something. The only thing that got me through my childhood was hope, because I didn't know a whole lot about faith, really. So for
Mm.
me, it was like I hoped that things would be different. I hoped that I could make things different. So hope is what changes things, and we have to hold on to it. When you lose hope, it's
Yeah.
dangerous. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Rita, hearing you speak, it just reminds me, and I pray this over every woman that is listening, every woman, every man that's listening, that God gives you hope, that He gives you a dream. I pray that He just shows you just a little glimpse of what your future will be, because I promise you, you're going to chase it. And I pray that anyone who's forgotten their dream, that you remember it and that you chase it and you do not stop. And I pray that in the mighty name of Jesus over everyone who's listening. Just when you were saying that, Larita, it reminded me of when God met me, when Jesus met me at that well, and just reminded me of who I was, and He put
Mhm.
me back together, and I've been chasing after him ever since, and
Oh,
I just feel like I just can't get him, but I'm running. Come on. And that is what it's all about, Larita, and hearing you just reminded me of that. Hearing you say that you're just painting on blank canvases and connecting with God. He is reminding you of what He has in store for you.
yes.
And man, I just pray that over every woman, that they experience that, to get back to those quiet places. Larita, let me ask you. You are now you are helping women. You are helping other women navigate their lives and navigate what they're going through some of the same challenges that you face. How did the barriers of that instability and that self-doubt show up in your journey and show up in these conversations that you were having with these women now today?
Just I think overall, I think when so I'll give you an example. So I do workforce development consulting, and I created a program called the Pathways to Purpose Workforce Development System. And I'm actually facilitating that program in partnership with the New Orleans Women and Children's Shelter currently right now. And it's so amazing because this isn't just about helping people navigate challenging times and navigate transition to get jobs. This is about helping people have mindset shifts and helping people, especially women, because women who is at the shelter, right? A woman
Yeah.
who might be sleeping in her car, or a woman who is at a job being harassed, or things, or in a relationship that's abusive, or a woman who, you aren't just a woman. Usually you're a mother, you're a sister, you're wearing 30 hats at one time. So it's very rarely that you're just focusing on this one thing. And women really need support, because in a society where we're marginalized, in a society where we're, taken advantage of, women need to be reminded of the power that they actually exhibit, and how important we are, to the
Yeah.
world, how important we are to God. Think
Yeah.
about that. God used, Mary to bring his son into the world.
Yeah.
He could have bypassed her. He didn't have to,
Yeah.
right?
Come
God is
on.
is everything. He didn't have to use her in that way to bring forth life. And so it's important for women to remember who they are, remember how important they are. And it shows up by, when I'm in those sessions working with those women, I'm not just showing them how to update their resumes or teaching them how to conduct or answer in a interview. We talked about Abram Maslow's hierarchy of needs in our
Mm.
workshop on yesterday.
Wow.
And they had never heard of the
Mhm.
Maslow hierarchy of needs. And for people
Mhm.
that don't know what it is a
Yeah.
hierarchy that talks about the basic things. It's a theory about the basic things we need to operate in the world. We need food, we need shelter, we need safety, right? And then
Mhm.
that kind of pyramid goes up higher. And I explained to them that the base, when you think about something being on the bottom, usually you think about it being not as important. And you think
Mhm.
about the thing at the top of the pyramid being more important. But that's not how this works with the hierarchy of needs. The base is the foundation. It's solid. It's the most important thing. So if you have a job, then you have money. If you have money, then you can put a roof over you and your kid's head. If you have a roof and you have money, then you can feed them. And then that affects your mental health and your physical health. So then you
Come
have
on.
money
Yeah.
and a roof and food, and you're not as mentally unhealthy. You're not as physically unhealthy. And they had never seen some of them attach it in such a way that it was like a circle. They had only seen it in such a linear, like a line type
Yeah.
way. And we talked about it in a way that allowed them to see this isn't just about, I can go get a job anywhere and make a couple of bucks. This is about purpose. This is about, how do you
Ability.
create stability? How do you create long term success? How do you put yourself in a position that you're not constantly anxious and worried about if you're going to end up back in shelter, if you're going to not be able to take care of the kids? And these individuals that I'm working with, they are amazing. They are extremely resilient. And I resonate with that. And when
Yeah.
we talk, it's not just, here comes Miss Rita. She's dressed a certain way. I have been very open about, LaRita was homeless at one point too.
Yeah.
LaRita lived paycheck to paycheck at one point too.
Yeah.
LaRita is navigating a season right now when she is coming into the sessions with you every week. She is navigating a season right now that sometimes makes her say, I don't think I can get out of bed today.
Mm.
But God says
Mm.
those women give you purpose. You need them, they need
They
you.
need you.
Get up and go. And no matter how I feel when I get dressed and I get in the car and I drive over there, when I hit that door, it is a feeling that we
Mm.
connect. We connect because my purpose is attached to theirs and their purpose is attached to mine. And I love
That's
it.
good.
I love, love, love it.
That's good. Man, I hear
Yeah.
you so loud and clear, LaRita.
Yeah.
We talked about that internal piece, and you even talked about how it changes for us mentally and being able to actually put those two together. And that internal piece, that your heart, your mind, it sometimes it emphasizes and shows up in your work, right? So what did accountability look like to you when things were really hard, and how did you rebuild your confidence? How are let me rephrase that, because you're going through it now. How are you rebuilding your confidence right now? I mean, you can't tell me that you just going in there confident every day. You got to talk
No,
to us about that.
I did not go in there confident yesterday. But, well, I'll say this, I did not wake up confident yesterday, right?
Yeah.
But I'm very intentional about having a conversation with God. And when I don't feel at my best, especially when I have to be on a podcast or teach a workshop or
Come on.
have a meeting with an employment partner, right? I always say a prayer before I interact with anybody, especially when I'm supposed to be, filling up their cup, or even if
Mm,
I'm just putting
mm,
drops in their cup, then I always am intentional about having a conversation with God first. And I will always say, my heart right now, right? My
mm.
heart is here, but my mind is somewhere else. Or
There it
my
is.
heart is
Yeah.
hurting, right? My heart is hurting right now, but I am here because you've requested me to be here. God, you said that this is where I need to be.
That's
So
good.
please allow the Holy Spirit to use me, speak through me. I say my prayer before we started, allow the
That's
Holy
good.
Spirit to use me and speak through me. The people that are going to talk to me, the people that are going to hear me and Leah, they need a message, they need a word. So if I can't show up in the way that you require of me, then use me. Just let me be a vessel. And sometimes I'll be honest, feel it. I'm like, God, you with us. I feel him now. He's in this conversation, right? And then
Yeah.
there are some times where I feel like I'm outside my body looking at myself like, oh wow, he's using me. That's not me.
Oh, that is
That is
not me.
not me. That is not me. And so,
Mm,
what it looks like to me is the building the confidence. It's every day. Unless I'm really sick or I just really am hurting physically, I get up and
okay.
I do that walk. I do that run. I listen to I have my, I like rap music. I have Christian rap music I listen to. You know, I like, listen to gospel music. I
Yeah.
listen to rap. Whatever I need to feel like I know who I am that day. I love Cardi B and she says some crazy things, right? But there are
Yeah.
some things, like Yolanda Adams, one of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
There are some songs that I say, you know what? I gotta
I
listen
need
to
this
this
right
today
now.
because I need to be reminded that God is walking with me today. And then
Mhm.
I say, I need this song today because I need to be reminded that I'm beautiful
Yeah.
and I'm powerful and I'm smart and I can handle what today brings me. So everybody has got to spend a little time figuring out what works for you. I journal every day. I color and paint eat several
Mm.
nights a week. I go to therapy. I, have Bible study with my friends and associates.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what works for you, and you got to also be open to the fact that as you grow and as you go through different seasons, what works for you could change, and you got to be
Yeah.
open to that.
That's
You got to be
good.
open to it. Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
I wanna ask you, what was some of the biggest things that you had to unlearn? And out of them, what internal shifts do you feel that made the biggest difference?
The hardest thing that I had to unlearn,
Mhm.
probably my early 20s to maybe my late 20s, early 30s, when I started my organization, was the why me kind of
That's
syndrome. Why me, God? Why me? Why me? Why me? Right? And now at 46, I say, why not me? What is it you want me to learn? What is it you have for me? What is this gonna do for me? What is this strengthening in me? I think of the spirit as a muscle. When you go to the gym and you want triceps, biceps, you want quads, you want great glutes, you got to work them out. And I mean, you got to really work them out. You can't,
yeah. Yeah.
you
You just
can't do three squats and think you're gonna have buns like Tiana Taylor. It doesn't work, right? You got to really
Come
commit.
on. Yeah.
right? You got to really
Yep.
commit. And so for me,
Yeah.
when really unpleasant things happen to me, I go through the hurt and the fear like everyone else. But
Mhm.
once I come through that initial fog, I am saying, God, you want me to work my spirit out again? You got me in the spiritual gym again, working it
Come
out.
on.
But there's obviously another level that I can't get to until I work it out in the gym. So I had to unlearn the why is me. I had to unlearn, Leo, when you grow up in poverty, when you grow up like I did, I wasn't naturally like a person that's like, I'm chipper and I have a positive mindset all the time and everything is great. That's not who I am.
Mm,
I am a
mhm,
realist. I
mhm,
can be
mhm.
sarcastic and I, used to be very cynical, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But as God worked out that spiritual muscle, he allowed me to realize that cynicism, that why me? Why does this happen to me? I can't do it. When you live like that for so long, it becomes a security blanket,
That's
and that
good, LaRita.
security blanket
Mm.
is smothering you. It's putting out your light. It's putting out your fire,
Look at
because
that.
it becomes an excuse for
That's
why you can't be
mm,
the best version of yourself, why God is trying to ignite something in you and you can't quite get to it, not because you're incapable, but because the mindset in itself tells you that's not going to happen for you. You're not able to do
true.
that.
That's
When
true.
I started my nonprofit at 29 years old, I didn't have a rich family to sink money into my nonprofit. I had to get donations. I had to,
Go out there and work. Yeah,
drive in where
yeah.
ask for help. The enemy would tell me all the time, who do you think you are to start this organization at 29 years old to think that you could do that? Who do you think you are to reach out to CEOs and to sit in
Mm,
rooms with people that have doctorate degrees? And
mm,
I have an MBA, but when I started my nonprofit, I didn't have a degree at all. I was
mm.
in school, right? And the enemy would say, who do you think you are? And guess what? As God said, you know who you are. I told you who you are. Let's go.
Come on.
Let's do it.
Come on.
And
Yeah.
as that happened, it became me in the office in my home to me having 10 staff members, people in the field, another office being opened in another city. It
Come on.
got bigger and bigger and
Yeah.
bigger and bigger. And then the enemy couldn't use that line anymore. He couldn't say, who do you think you are? Because when he would say that, I was able to say, you know who I am. God already showed you who I was. You go talk to him about me. So
Come on.
it's that, and that's
Mm,
hard. It took
yeah.
me years, and I still sometimes when I'm navigating a difficult season,
Yeah.
sometimes it's your natural reaction to revert,
Mm,
and it,
that's
it,
that
it,
part.
it is, it's true, and
Yeah.
you can't beat yourself up, but
Yeah.
you can't stay there either. You have to
Mhm.
say, mm-mm, this is familiar. We remember what this feels like. We don't
Yep.
want to live here anymore,
Yep.
and you got to just pivot. And I'm not sitting here saying anybody that's watching this that the pivot is easy. I'm not a superhero. There's not a pill that I take to pivot. My pivot is Jesus, and I just talk to him and he gives me instructions and I do my best to do what he says.
I love it. Let me ask you,
Yeah.
Larita, for women who are listening right now and they are hearing this story and they're like, this is me. I'm in the same situation right now that I may not be able to talk about. I may be feeling like I'm absolutely stuck in this.
Yeah.
What would you say to them right now to help them break that mindset and help them shift and change their lives?
I would say you aren't stuck. Right now you're sitting in God's waiting room. That's what I call it.
That's
You are
good.
in your incubation period.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has to sit in God's waiting room before they get to walk in for their appointment, before they get to go to that next level.
Yeah.
When I started going through what I'm going through right now, I was upset and said, God, how dare you? You didn't protect me. Look all the work I did. And you mean to tell me I got to go back into the waiting room?
Mm.
And God gave me glimpses of what's next. And he said, yeah, you're not too big to sit in the waiting room. You got to go back in the waiting room too. You're in a different waiting room. You just don't see it because you thought you never had to go back into another waiting room again. But that's not how growth works. That's not how God works. You're not stuck. You are sitting in a waiting room. You took a number, and we know God. You might have number 1,632,000, and God snap his fingers, and tomorrow life is going to be different.
Yeah.
Or you might have to wait 6 months.
Yeah.
You might have to wait 6 years, but you got to know that while you're waiting, God is working things out. He's moving things out the way so you can move ahead. He's knocking down things the enemy is trying to bring behind you so the enemy don't trip you up. He's blocking you on both sides. The waiting room is actually a really safe place to be. It's scary because, see, you don't know what's ahead. And a lot of times people's natural reaction is to go back because they know what's in the back. But I'm telling you, the back's not where it's at. Sit in the waiting room until God calls that number and tells you, all right, go ahead. It's time for you to go forward.
Mm.
You in that dark tunnel and you scared because you don't know how long you're going to be in the dark. But God is with you. So you're not technically in the dark.
Ooh, wait, Loretta, I'm jumping out of my skin because girl, I want to get on this so bad, but I can't because I'm gonna take up our time. But it just
Yeah.
reminds me of Proverbs 3, 5, 6. I had just posted that. Lean not on our own
On your own understanding. But that is the hardest. That is the hardest
It's
scripture.
hard,
That is
Loretta.
one of the hardest because,
Hard.
especially, listen, there are a lot of women that are like me. I am someone who, if I understand, I can create a plan and I can move forward, right? But what we have to understand is that that's why he says not lean on us because we don't always have the capacity to understand God-like movements and God-like revelations on a human scale. That's why we got to sit in that waiting room. I tell my kids, you don't understand what it means to be safe until you feel unsafe.
Mm.
You don't know what you want until you know what you don't want. You have to experience them both to understand. So
Can I
lean
can
on
I
God.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go. No, no,
No, I
just
said, and can
yeah,
I just go on the analogy that you're using as far as your waiting room? When you're in this
yeah.
waiting room, be obedient in this waiting room. And listen, I'm not just sitting here. I am not talking about this from my because listen. I just
I
did a
struggle with
post.
obedience too. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
be obedient because God is preparing you. He's preparing things. He is telling you to do certain things. He is telling you to
Yeah.
be certain places. Do this and do that while you are in that waiting room because it is going to all come in alignment once
Yes.
all things are ready.
Yes. God
Ah,
says he works all things out for your good, does he not?
girl,
So even the things that make you cry, make you scared. My mom used to
girl.
tell me, fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah,
And so even when those things that scare you and you're not sure which way is up, go left, right, you don't know.
yeah,
God is working all those things out for your good. And I am just like you. I woke up today saying, God, I don't know what's going to happen with this. God, I'm upset
yep,
about this. God, I don't know. And God said, not today.
no,
Not today. He said, go on your walk. I'm taking care of it.
yep,
Go do what you need to do. We'll reconvene when it's time. And that's
yeah,
hard,
that's good.
but it's real. You got to do it.
That is so good. I love that. I love that.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
Larita, you've evolved through this journey. You are a witness. You're coming back to pull us through. How has your definition of success changed, and who have you had to become during this season in your life of rebuilding?
Success does. Okay, success for me is very different. It used to be chasing the bag,
Come on. Yeah.
right. Now I say I chase God and the bag will come. He will bless me with the bag, right? So for me, right? So for me, this season is about I'm redefining who I am without the titles, the accolades, the descriptions, the
Yeah.
car, the clothes, the
Yeah.
home. I'm redefining that I matter even without those things. Even if he stripped me, when I got stripped of those things, right? God still sat down next to me and said, "You are so important to me. You are so divinely touched. And I've architected you in a way that the enemy has no authority over you, no matter what you experience." So I am having to redefine how I see myself and love myself just as LaRita, the person. And it's easy to love yourself when you're an award winning speaker. It's easy to love
Come
yourself when
on.
you've been on TV and in the newspaper and magazines and, on global stages. It's easy to put on the blazer and say, oh, I'm that woman, right? I'm that chick, right? But it's hard when that all gets taken away.
Yeah.
And then you look at yourself and say, hmm, I still matter. God still loves me. He still chose me. He still chose me when I'm in a shelter. He still chose me when I'm in an abusive situation. He still chose me. And I'm talking about not necessarily myself, just any
No,
woman,
yeah.
any person. He still chose me when I lost that job and I didn't get that promotion. He still chose me when I got behind on rent, when I
Mm.
couldn't pay that car note and they repossessed my car. He still chose me and he's still choosing me. And he has something for me. I have a thing on the wall in my office and it says, I still remember the days that I prayed for the things that I have now.
Love that. Love that.
So, it is
Love that.
learning to love self without the attachments, without the people, without the products, without the material things.
Hmm.
Who are you? And recognizing that who you are is good enough. It doesn't need a title, it doesn't need anything else.
That's so good. Larita, our conversation has been amazing.
Thank you.
I
I've,
love
yeah.
when I looked up at the time and I'm like, there's no way. And I still have so many more questions, but I'm confident that this conversation went exactly where it was supposed to go and the way it was supposed to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you back the floor, Larita. Tell us where we can find you, where we can follow you, where we can get in touch with you and follow you on your journey.
Awesome. So of course I'm Pathways to Purpose is a workforce readiness system. And my overall plan is to license the system so that I can share it with individuals who have been incarcerated, with correctional facilities, with more homeless shelters, vocational rehab agencies. If people want to learn more, they can go to www.laritafrancois.com. They can
Mhm.
also follow me on Instagram at LaRita Francois. I post a lot of inspirational videos. I share what I'm doing behind the scenes. I also am a minister. So I share, my ministry is called Divine Ministry of Hope. And so I share a lot of what I'm doing with Divine Ministry on Hope on my LaRita Francois Instagram.
Mhm.
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, I'm on Facebook,
Mm.
and I have a YouTube page. So people can follow me anywhere because listen, if my story resonated with you, if the challenges that I've gone through, and prayerfully, Leah will invite me back for this second
Yeah,
part of this story
we need
when
this.
I'm able to share it so that we could really dig in. But if this resonates, please follow me on Instagram at LaRita Francois, on Twitter, not Twitter, on TikTok at LaRita Francois, and on Facebook, LaRita Francois, so that you can really keep up with what we have going on. If you're interested in working with me and professional consulting, as well as I do personal development and coaching, personal
Mhm.
coaching, life coaching. So they can reach me there.
Perfect. Oh my goodness, Rita, thank you so much for coming and pouring at this well. What a fun conversation. I love when we just like finish each other's sentences. I mean, this is what it's
Yeah.
all about. I hope you ladies were listening to, jumping in. If you have something to add, leave it in the comments. Follow us on social media. Follow Rita on all social media. Get in touch with her if you feel like you really resonate with her story and you want to dig deeper. Thank you, Larita, and I'll definitely put your information in the description below so they can
Thank you.
contact you. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you,
my guest
Leah. This
today.
has been amazing. Thanks for having me, and I hope to see you again soon.
100%. Same. All
You
right.
have a great day.
Okay,
Okay.
ladies, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Woman Witness podcast on the Woman Witness TV network. I want you to hit that subscribe button. And if you have not already downloaded our app on Roku, please do so now. It's a Woman Witness TV. That way you can make sure you catch your favorite episodes on the big screen. Okay, guys, I want to thank you so much. And perhaps you were chosen for such a time as this to write, to tell your story, your truth. Until next time.